Welcome to episode 200 of the Lone Hockey Podcast. For today, we're going to be talking about some standouts in last night's matchup between Nashville and San Jose. And it was so interesting because earlier in the week, we saw these two teams play face off against each other and high scoring game, ironically. And as it turns out, this game was really high scoring. There were 11 goals in this game, and Nashville ended up winning this one. I believe the last time it was 7-5, and this game was 6-5. So, pretty ironic how things turned out and how this game turned out. I felt like a lot of Nashville's players are similar to, I don't remember when the game was. I believe it was either Monday or Tuesday, but a lot of Nashville's players in terms of their top six, their wingers, their forward group, and just their holistic group as a whole. I felt like all those guys are really noticeable, and I really noticed a lot of those guys yesterday too. And even a lot of their checking forwards. Like Nashville has a bottom six that doesn't necessarily produce a ton offensively, but they're really steady defensively. They're really reliable defensively, and they can play a shutdown game too. And so with Brady Shea, we'll start with him on Nashville. I felt like he was very noticeable. He had 3 assists, and obviously these are two not so good teams. So there's no surprise why there's a lot of offense and how is being generated because defensively both teams are kind of a mess in certain situations. But when it came to Brady Shea, offensively he's very noticeable. In transition, he was very noticeable. And I thought in terms of his two-way ability, very noticeable as well. Like obviously he got a reputation earlier in his career for being a guy who could be more of a steady two-way guy rather than an offensive style defenseman. But when it comes to Shea's game, he's more of a guy that can be reliable in both ways, steady in transition, steady in the O zone, and doesn't incorporate a lot of flashy movements into his own zone play and his habits there. But I just feel like he has a lot of well ingrained details in his game that allow him to be a positionally sound player in the offensive zone. And then Philip Forsberg, 2 goals and 6 shots on net. When you look at Philip Forsberg's game, he's really ramped it up lately when it comes to his scoring ability. I didn't really notice him as much earlier in the year, and there'd be spurts and times where you just go invisible and you wouldn't notice him at all. But really lately, he's ramped it up in terms of offensive production and how he's been able to generate there. And he's just been very consistent in terms of his scoring instincts and being around the net and also being able to be a guy who can be very reliable for this team as a scoring option. And they need him to be a scorer. And Nashville's essentially relied upon him for so long to be their main goal scorer and their main playmaker. So they really need him to produce, and otherwise Nashville doesn't really do anything. And so this game he was really flashy, and I thought he was doing a good job creating from interior in the ozone. He's really flashy there, really noticeable at being able to get to the net, but also route off the puck to get to the net as well. So in both senses, he was really noticeable in that sense. And then Zach Lahiro, who has been just a feisty competitor ever since getting called up from Milwaukee earlier this season, and a guy who he's a good playmaker. He's steady there. He's reliable in transition. Not the flashiest of skaters. Like I notice his straight line speed more than his side to side speed. I feel like when he's skating, you kind of notice a little bit of awkwardness in how he pivots. But when it comes to his straight line speed, he's very effective there. He's got really good stride usage, really good shin angle usage to be able to lock that down and also be able to get a lot of power in his extension. And in the offensive zone, instinctually speaking, has always been a guy since junior hockey where he's active around the net. He's active on the perimeter at being able to control possessions, and he's active at being able to be a possession driving player. So he was really noticeable and he did a really good job throughout this game. And then Fedor Svechkov, who a goal and an assist for 2 points. And I really liked his game as of late. I feel like he's really popped and his side to side play in the ozone's been noticeable. His entry play has been more noticeable and he's been more flashy there. And then you look at the dynamic of how he's playing in the offensive zone. He just links together a lot of elements that are a little bit more translatable and obviously allow him to have more sustained success when it comes to offensive zone play. So he's been really intriguing. Obviously, a very competitive player too. On top of that, I feel like when you add the offensive skill set to the competitiveness, he's just very exciting to watch and certainly a promising young player for them on their side. And then obviously you get guys like Roman Yossi, Jonathan Marchessault played really well. Gustav Nyquist, I thought had one of his better seasons in last year. Speaking, this year it's been a little bit kind of tapered off and there's been times where he hasn't necessarily scored a ton, but I feel like with Nyquist, he's been more effective lately too, and has certainly scored a lot more lately. Steven Stamkos obviously scored in this game too, and Justin Barron looked really good once again. I talked about him before, but I really liked how he was active as a two-way D. I feel like he's a rangy guy. When you look at how different he is compared to Carrier in that trade, Barron's more of a lanky defenseman who has size, he has puck skills, he has two-way ability, but it's more in how he uses his size to create advantages for himself. Like he's really good at being able to protect pucks and being able to leverage his size in that sense. And then some standouts on San Jose. I thought Mikael Granlund was really good, and certainly one of their players who's just produced a ton offensively for them last year and really had a bounce back year for them last year. And then this year so far has been really interesting to watch. Like 3 assists in last night's game, really good as a playmaker, really good off the rush, really creative off of the rush, and brings some instincts that allow him to have some flair in terms of how he creates. And he was really flashy. Obviously, Macklin Celebrini was just creating a ton of shots, and he almost had 10 shots in this game. Like he was just creating constantly. And obviously, a player who has been point per game, he's been very productive. And we've talked a lot about him before in the newsletters and the podcasts, how he's so good. There's it's hard to really find a separating element, that something that I've never said about him before because I feel like I repeat a lot when it comes to him, but he just does a really good job playing a holistic game and a holistic two-way game. And that allows him to be able to have that sustained success over the period of time. And Nikolai Kovalenko was really good. Walker Duehr, and they claimed him off waivers from Calgary, was really good and really nice addition. I don't necessarily envision him being a guy that's going to be a full-timer with San Jose. I could certainly see there come a point where he might get sent down to the AHL or something like that. But a guy who can bring some scoring, bring some speed, bring some creativity, and be more of a bottom nine style winger and be reliable there and playing a lot of shutdown situations for them too. And then Will Smith was really good. I thought Henry Thrun was really good. He had a goal in this game, and he doesn't normally score. He doesn't necessarily produce a ton offensively, but when he does a really good job of being able to create not only point shots, but being able to create accurate point shots, and was really noticeable. Fabian Zetterlund just creates a ton of speed and a ton of havoc, not only around the net, but off the rush, and how he's using his creative side there. And Zetterlund's a guy who plays more of a straight line game when it comes to his rush play, but inside the offensive zone can play more of a lateral game, and he's very sound in that sense there. And then Mario Ferraro, I thought had one of the better games too. He was really noticeable as a two-way D, obviously very reliable, played a lot of minutes, and it was just overall very steady as well.